okay, it's going actually. So perfect.
Oh, good. We'll just see if that lasts. The way my day's been going. Anyway, so how we shall start this thing. I think you should probably introduce yourself and where you're from and how we met, maybe.
Okay, so I'm Lior, and I'm from Israel, and I met Jessica as a roommate in in one of our semesters. I don't remember the year, but one of the semesters.
And my first year in college.
Oh,
that's a while ago now.
No, was it your first year? Because I thought you were first in another, like, with another friend in a different.
Oh, you're right. No,
it was your second year.
It was my second year.
Yep. So your second year. I don't know where I was, like what year it was, so I couldn't tell you. Anyway, and a story I learned later. Is that she never got my name. She would always sneak out to the door without me finding out to look at my name.
Liors.
And
so exotic to me. I could not remember it. I kept thinking lion. I'm like, it sounds like lion. It sounds like lion, but I didn't want to call you Leo.
Well, so you see, lion is actually a better than liar, which I get as well. So there's many of them. So my name is actually spelled Lior, and it is Lior, not liar or lion.
So what made you come to America to go to school instead of going to school in Israel?
I started in Israel, and most of the I studied photography. I'm a graduate now.
Took you long enough, Lior.
And what did I want to say? And in Israel I was choosing my school very carefully because Bezalel, which is one of the finest schools for arts, not just in the country but in Europe in general, I didn't like them because how do you say on someone that their nose is high?
Stuck up.
Huh?
Stuck up?
Yeah.
What are the main concepts or principles your parents taught you growing up? What were your values growing up?
The one thing they teach you from the moment you're born, they say you do not hate. You do not hate. You can dislike, but you do not hate. Because hate brings fear, and fear, they bring each other, and both of those bring war. It's fear and it's hate that are the cause for war. And they said you will never hate in your life. You can choose not to like someone or something, but do not hate. Just do yourself a favor. And I teach that exactly same thing to every child that I take care of. For the past 15 years, I teach them not to hate. I say you can choose not to like someone. And you can even tell it to them in their face. I don't like you right now. It's fine not to like someone. Sometimes it's because you're angry at them. But never say I hate, because to take that word away is much harder than taking the words I don't like you right now. Because when we're mad, we say many things that we don't necessarily mean. And I can tell you that in Israel, in kindergarten, you wouldn't see a single child that would say, I hate you. So they teach you respect, and they teach you forgiveness, and how to give and receive, and, the basic humanities is the first thing. So to anyone, adult, child, so that's the thing that my parents as well at home That was the values that we received at home. Accept everyone as they are. Love them as they are. Be patient. And, life will be kind to you.
This is for an education class, and I'm to find out cultural differences between the education system in Israel, how you grew up, things that you noticed coming to America that are different and striking. So let's start with your childhood, Lior. Tell me about where you grew up, what it was like. Paint me a picture. Pretend this is like a novel, and I've just crash landed from Mars, right outside of Rugby. Let me know what it was like. It should be a stretch of the imagination.
True to life.
You already think I crashed landed from Mars.
Okay, so true to life. Well, I was born and raised until 10th grade in the Arava Desert. That is Arava, right? Arava Desert. That's the south tip of the country. And actually not just Arava Desert, but also southern, however you say that word. So the south tip of it. It's split into two. There's a northern and there's a south side to it, which is about a third of the country, I guess, in length. Israel is a very small country, as you know. It's only 8 hours to drive it from the south tip to the north tip. You have desert in the south and snow in the north. You get everything.
But when you first showed me a picture of where you lived, I was shocked because it's bare earth with these huge jagged
There's
like mountains.
nothing there. It's the middle of nowhere. So if you want a direction how to get there, I would say just go. Drive all the way. Keep driving. Turn left again, then again. You got there.
And if you're lucky, you'll find it. If not, you'll die of thirst. You have to tell people what a kibbutz is. Most people don't know.
Okay, so a kibbutz is a small community, usually no more than probably 100 to 200 adults. Few go to 500 and even 1,000, but that's maybe 2 or 3 in the country that gets to 1,000 adult members. We were about 180 adults when I was growing up, and then there were almost 100 children. We always had 2 buses to school, unlike any other kibbutz that had a single one. So we had a high population of children. But a kibbutz originally was called kvutza. Kvutza means group in literal translation. A kibbutz comes from the same root of kvutza, just about. So kvutza is a group, and kibbutz is to group people together. Lekabetz, to group them.
So how is education viewed in Israel? Are there any differences between education in Israel and education in the U.S.?
The teacher in Hebrew is not quite the same definition as in English. A teacher is sort of a guide considered. It's not by definition. In Hebrew you say more or mora, depends if it's a man or a woman. M-O-R-A or E at the end. And it really means a guide. Another word that is used is mechanech. In feminine, it would be mechanechet. And that's also, it's the same idea. Someone who is guiding you, not necessarily teaching you like, math and English, and they're there first and foremost to educate you for life rather than, the materialistic stuff.
The school in Israel, bring me from the first you can remember up until you joined the army.
Okay, so the school system is very different in Israel. Even when I grew up, when it wasn't so advanced as it is today, it was still more than what it was when I came to the U.S. and what I found here in the U.S. I mean, the understanding to special needs is very different in Israel. And it was kind of shocking because when my mom told me that when I was growing up, because I grew up with ADHD and learning disabilities, and I fought through the system constantly, and that's the reason I moved to 10th grade from that area to the north of the country, because that school wasn't right for me, and I knew that I could do better somewhere else. I just knew it, that this couldn't be the only thing existing. And it is a very good school, and while it's farther back than many other schools in Israel, it's still more advanced than what I've seen in the U.S. since I came here in 2009.
So in what ways? So specifically,
huh?
So specifically, is it an attitude difference?
Or it's a very different attitude. They know how to. They know how to have children with special needs integrate with regular children. So even, ADHD, I've seen ADHD child who was sent to a special needs school, which there's no need for him to actually go there. He could learn in a regular school if he just had the support that he needed. And the way that they treated him, though, in the regular school was terrible. He came home with marks on his hands and his hand wrists because they were holding him so tight, afraid that he would snap at any second. And a child should not come home with marks on their, finger marks from the person holding their...
Was that the American school or the Israeli?
Yes, that's in the American, in Palo Alto. A very good public school, considered a very good one. Most of the Stanford staff sent their children over there, so they had popularity. I don't know, where it stands compared to other public schools, but I'm talking about a child that graduated kindergarten, was supposed to graduate kindergarten and go to first grade, and they kept him in kindergarten one more year, which he didn't need. A very smart, bright kid, just had, his problems and needed extra help. And they eventually put him in the principal office to learn with a private teacher. And so when everyone were on a break, he was in the principal office learning, and when everybody went back into the classrooms, then he would go on a break on his own. And that's not a way to treat a child.
No, it's very isolating.
It is. So, when he went to the special needs school, he was thriving because he had people who knew how to help him. But on the other hand, he was with children that could not communicate, most of them. It's
home,
just sad.
How is it different? How is it supported differently
in Israel? Where I grew up, and it's different in different schools, but there's a lot of one-on-one work. So there's classes that I was staying in the class with everybody else, studying with everyone. And then in classes where I had a hard time, like math, I have dyscalculation. So in math classes, I would go out with another friend who had the same problem, and we would go to a tutor, and it was right next to our class. It's not that we went far out, and she would work with us on math in our level, and she gave us she worked with us in learning strategies. She really gave us a strong support. And there were days that, when we went there, we were so, wild, and she saw that we couldn't sit down for a second and do anything, and so instead she would do something else to get that energy out and help us channel it back into into studying. So she would give us a place where we could express ourselves, not just verbally, but also physically. And it was wonderful.
Was it a smaller classroom that allowed her to do this, or was it just set up?
It was that woman. Her name is Danielle, and I just met her not long ago. One of the most amazing women I've ever met. She had so much patience, and she had so much will, and she always said, you can do whatever you want to do. Don't let anybody stop you. And this is not something that you always hear from everyone, because you can also hear opposites telling you that you'll be nothing. I've heard that before. And that's a big down in any education system. I've seen it said to kids both here and in Israel. You have teachers that don't know what they're doing, and they don't think when they talk. They don't think who they're standing in front, and you can't say to a child that they're nothing.
You mentioned touch. The appropriateness of touch and being close to kids is different.
Yes, touch is very important in Israel. There's no such thing as not, going and massaging a child that you see that is out of their sorts, to put them back, to feel their body, help them feel their body. There's hugs. There's, you're allowed to kiss a child, to give them a kiss on their head. Or, on their feet, if it's a baby. You won't find any other child doing it or wanting to do it to any other child, because they're playing in the sand and they're playing in everything that you don't want in your mouth. So you're not going to try it with an older child. But with the little babies, that's fine. You can touch a child. It's not prohibited by law to do it. And over here, you can't do it.
Or is it just expected?
Huh?
Is it frowned upon? Or is it totally expected? That's just the way it is.
It's expected. It's a part of life. I mean, there's nothing wrong with touching a child. I mean, it's not, as long as you're not, molesting a child, which I wouldn't expect to see that. That is disgusting and horrific, and I will probably vomit if I would see that. As long as you're staying in proper touching, there's nothing wrong with touching a child. And to teach a child that you can't...
It's the more leeway. Everybody's not terrified that if they're seen hugging a kid, they're going to get in trouble.
Well, actually, I can tell you, in the state of Kentucky, it's illegal to hug a child, and it's illegal to massage a child that needs, to find themselves, I was, this past year, school year, I was working at KIP, it's Knesset Israel Preschool in Louisville, Kentucky, and for the most of the year, I was mostly with the 2-year-olds, which obviously grew to be 3. So to call them 2s is not a very good name, but that's the small things. I don't care about that. It's just a term, right? But there's no, children at that age, they have to have touch, and when you're not allowed to do it, I think it's terrible, because, if a child is very angry or very frustrated or very sad, it's important to go through the process of explaining to them what they're feeling, because it's okay to feel to have these feelings. I mean, it's important to have those feelings. I think that a lot of times today, children do not know how to express those feelings, because they're being...
You're punished.
Huh?
You're not allowed to. You're punished.
You're not allowed to. It's not necessarily that you're punished, but parents say, don't cry. Well, why not cry? I mean, nothing is wrong with crying. I mean, it's a way to express a feeling. I mean, sometimes we even cry because we're so happy. I mean, crying is not a bad thing. We have to express how we feel. And if the child doesn't express it, eventually they'll be sick, probably, because physically sick, because their body is not releasing those feelings, those tensions. We can't always be a happy society. I mean, everybody have their ups and downs. There's no such person that is just plainly happy. If they are on the outside, then they lie to themselves and to the world on the outside, and at home they probably fall apart, or I don't know what happens to them. But no person is 24/7 happy. It doesn't exist.
Negative emotions as well as the positive, and don't expect them just to show one face, right?
Yeah. You have to know to express yourself, and something that was very important to me, and parents were very happy about that, is to teach children to express those feelings and allow them to express them. Obviously in a safe way. So if you're angry, you can't go and hurt someone or yourself. You have to do it in a way that is safe for yourself, and for others. Huh?
And touch is a part of teaching them this. Is just human contact and human.
Yes, and a lot of children, their problem with extreme emotion, like anger, extreme anger, is because lack of touch. לכל איש יש שם שנתן לו אלוהים ונתנו לו אביו ואמו. לכל איש יש שם שנתנו לו קומתו ואופן חיוכו ונתן לו האריג. לכל איש יש שם שנתנו לו הערים ונתנו לו כותליו. לכל איש יש שם שנתנו לו המזלות ונתנו לו שכניו. לכל איש יש שם שנתנו לו חטאיו ונתנה לו כמיהתו. לכל איש יש שם שנתנו לו שונאיו ונתנה לו אהבתו. שנתנו לו חגיו ונתנה לו מלאכתו. לכל איש יש שם שנתנו לו תקופות השנה ונתן לו עברונו. לכל איש יש שם שנתן לו הים ונתן לו מותו.
Every man has a name, given him by God, and given him by his father and his mother. Every man has a name, given him by his stature and his way of smiling, and given him by his clothes. Every man has a name, given him by the mountains, and given him by his walls. Every man has a name, given him by the planets, and given him by his neighbors. Every man has a name, given him by his sins, and given him by his longing. Every man has a name, given him by those who hate him, and given him by his love. Every man has a name, given him by his holidays, and given him by his handiwork. Every man has a name, given him by the seasons of the year, and given him by his blindness. Every man has a name, given him by the sea, and given him by his death.